What's up guys, it's Victoria from Under Victoria's Spell, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about my July reading wrap up. I'm so sorry, I'm just now getting to this. I've had some family issues going on, so I've just been spending some time with my family, but I definitely wanted to sit down and film a video for you guys. So I'm going to talk about all the books that I read in July, so let's hop to it. Okay, so the first book that I'm going to talk about is Reckless Memories by Catherine Cowles. I am currently reading her backlist, and this is her second series. This is book one, and this follows our heroine and our hero as they knew each other growing up. Our hero is actually her sister's boyfriend in the beginning of the book, and then this devastation happens shortly after. And this is really a story about grief, about forgiveness, about friendship, and about love. Overall, I gave this book 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I loved the progression of the hero and the heroine's story and different perspectives of what they went through in their grief and how they're coming back together as a friendship and as lovers. I thought it was really good. I had moments that made me tear up because I really resonated with the heroine and her grief journey. So I thought it was a beautiful story. So I thoroughly enjoyed that one by Catherine Cowles. Okay, the next one that I read is Forever Theirs by Katie Roberts, sorry. And I had actually read a novella by her when I did reading Ava's romance books video. I read a novella and I really enjoyed the novella, and it was a book as well, so I decided to pick it up. I was very interested in it. Overall, I did give the book 2.5 stars, and I felt like the reason that I gave it 2.5 stars was it really was just a continuation of the novella, and it was just mostly smut, which is fine. Like, sometimes you need a good smut book palette cleanser, and for that it was great. But as far as the storyline goes, I felt like it was a bit rushed. I felt like action was kind of going on a little bit all over the place. This is a menage romance. It's a MMF romance. This follows one of our heroes as he is like a band prince of his country, and his bodyguard follows him, and they meet this girl at a club one night on her 21st birthday, and they kind of just have this connection. And so it's really like a back and forth between these three, and they're kind of on the run because of this prince who is banned from his country and pretty much want him unalived. So overall, like, it had such a potential to be a really great story. I just felt like it was a bit all over the place. I felt like it was like a soap opera all wrapped into a book. I felt like the pacing could have been better. It could have been longer, and I think that it would have done better. I know this has a second book to it. They probably could have combined it into one story, but you know, that's all right. I don't know if I will continue on in this series, but smut, A+. Storyline, D. So that was the second book that I read in the month of July. The next book that I picked up is Perfect Wreckage, and that is the book 2 in the like Reckless series that Catherine Cowles wrote, and I ended up giving this one 4 stars. It was very good. Again, it's another story that deals with grief, and I thought it was different, but it was really good. This follows our heroine as it starts out in high school, and she finds out that her boyfriend, who she's so in love with, was not the man that she thought he was, and she finds out something about their future, and it kind of just leaves her heartbroken. And we fast forward to present day, and we see kind of what happened to her once the big news and drop of what her life was in high school or in present day, and she has a very sudden death in her family that kind of brings back her past, and not in a good way. And then we have our hero, who is kind of like the, class clown of the story, and he is going to be representing our heroine in the fight against her past and an estate. It was overall very good. The suspense element in this was excellent. I love the storyline. This has really good tropes such as, your small town, kind of frenemies to lovers. I just really enjoyed the mental health rep in this one, as well as our heroine is dealing with, grief and kind of learning how to let someone in. I thought it was done very, very beautifully, but please check your trigger warnings for this one before you go into this book. But overall, very, very good, 4 stars. The next book that I picked up was Voyeur by Fiona Cole. This is a book that has been on my radar for quite some time, especially after reading the Salacious Players Club series by Sarah Kate. This is kind of like in the same realm, so I was very excited to get to this. I've never read anything by Fiona Cole before, and I was like going into this very excited. So I gave it 2.5 stars, and I'll go into it. Well, I'll just tell you a little bit about what the book is about. It follows our heroine as she has lost her tuition money. So she decides to kind of sell herself in different ways at a private sex club, and that's where she meets the hero, but in a voyeuristic way that is unknown to the heroine. And the beginning, it had me, I was very captured and enamored by the story. But as the story kind of goes on, the heroine goes into her classes, and she, meets this really good professor. And then the other side of it, our hero is the professor who just watched our heroine in a very compromising situation. So he kind of has to pretend that he does not know who she is. And it's that part enamored me so much. But once you really get into the thick of it, I felt like their relationship, I just didn't see their connection other than, sexually, emotionally. I didn't get it. I thought it was very rushed again. And I need a story to be flushed out if I'm going to enjoy something. And it just felt very forced and rushed. And I honestly just was over it by the end of the book. So it was a 2.5 star read for me. And the next book I'm going to talk about is my buddy read that I did with Autumn and Erica. I'll leave their channels linked down below. This was Autumn's pick for the month, and it is The Things We Leave Unfinished by Rebecca Yarros. I have never heard of this author before. I know she's blown up now due to her fantasy romance, but I had honestly never heard of her. So I like when Autumn picks authors that I don't know, because I really learn to enjoy and find new authors to read. So this was her pick for the month, and I ended up giving this book 4 stars. To me, this book is very similar to The Longest Ride by Nicholas Sparks. If you're a Nicholas Sparks fan, I think you would really enjoy this book. It was very good. It is a dual timeline between present day and in the past between World War II. So I did a back and forth, like I said, very similar to The Longest Ride by Nicholas Sparks. This follows our heroine and her journey of helping her kind of closure for her mom and herself by helping them publish her grandmother's last book that has never been finished. And she is letting this guy that she met in a bookshop, whose books that she hates, but he's a really big fan of her grandmother, finished this book. And so it's kind of a workplace romance, forced proximity, because they're working on this book together. And it really is, to me, a second chance romance, but in such a different way than you're expecting your second chance. I think that it gives so much closure to the characters in this book in such beautiful new beginnings. So I really did enjoy the journey that each of these characters, past and present, went on, and especially the tiny twist that came at the end. I was not expecting, but I thought it was a very great surprise, and it was done very, very well. So overall, this book is 4 stars. It's really, really good. And the next book that I read, and I actually buddy read this with Erica. She reached out to us and see if we wanted to read it in support of the author who's going through cancer treatment, and that's Hooked by Emily McGuire or McIntyre. I can never remember how to say her last name, but I was like, of course I would love to support the author, and I've never read anything by this author before, so I'm all for it. And this was actually something that intrigued me because it's a Peter Pan retelling. If you know me or watched any of my videos, you know I love the Never King series by Nikki St. Crow. It's a Peter Pan retelling, so I was very intrigued going into this because I love retellings when they're done right and they're spicy. So this is a Peter Pan retelling. This follows our hero, who is like our villain, Hook, on his story of revenge for what has happened to his family when he was younger. And it just so happens that the reason for the demise of his family is that this girl that he's very interested in, and he kind of pulls her into his revenge plot. And he just has this whole plan, but he's enamored with her. And I just loved this. This was such a dark romance. This is not for the faint of heart. I thought it was so well written. The spice was amazing. The Peter Pan tie-in elements was really, really good. And I think that if you love a little bit of action, revenge, dark romance, and some smut, and there's a little plot twist at the end, this is definitely the right one for you. I gave this one 4.5 stars. It was my favorite book of July. So good. And lastly, I'm going to talk about the last book I read in July, and I definitely did not end on a high note. I gave this book 1 star. I cannot think of one book that I've given 1 star because I normally DNF before I get there, but no, I continued all the way to the end of this book. Read it in one sitting, hoping it would get better, and it did not. And that is Girl Going Nowhere by B. Celeste. And I was pulled in to this romance by a TikTok that I saw. I need to learn not to trust my instincts sometimes with TikTok, because I saw like a quote from the book that it was like a reverse harem, like poly romance. That's the impression that I got. Well, it is reverse harem, but this story was a hot mess. Hot mess. This follows our heroine as she's a single mom and lives with 3 male roommates. I was excited. I was like, this is going to be smutty, great. It was awful because there was no chemistry between these characters. And she's a mom, and like you didn't really see her kid in any of this. And then she like has an outside romance that he ends up like kind of using against her in the end to hurt her and her daughter. And I was like, this is really not it for me. I was like, the writing is horrible, the plot line is horrible, who she ends up with barely got any scenes in any of the book. And I was like, what is going on here? Like, this is not making any sense. This is like something a 10th grade wrote. Like, I'm not even kidding. This was not good at all. And this is the first book I've read by B. Celeste, and I know how well loved she is and how highly rated her books are. So for me to start out with this and me to hate it makes me really question whether I want to continue and read any other book by the series. But yeah, I did not like this book. The heroine was annoying. The heroes or hero, who even knows? I don't even know if there was a hero, was very chaotic and didn't make any sense. This book was a complete fail for me. It got 1 star because there was 1 good smutty scene in it. That's all. That's the 1 star. So yeah, I highly do not recommend this book. And I hated that I ended July on a horrible note, but this was just not it for me at all. And those are the books that I read in the month of July. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you read in the month of July, your favorite book. If you've read any of these and what your thoughts on them are, I would absolutely love to know. Again, so sorry about the late upload, but I'm looking forward to being back on a newer and regular schedule here soon. But I'll see you guys in next week's video. Bye.